Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to discuss with you the super puzzling case of Rey Rivera. So a reboot of Unsolved Mysteries was recently released on Netflix, and the very first case of the season was about Rey Rivera. Now I'm watching this and I'm just like, okay, where is this going? Okay, he's missing, and then basically pretty much 2 and 2 never added up to 4, and I am just trying to make it make sense. So let's go through this and talk about it. I thought it would be good to go back and review the history of the hotel where he was found missing. The hotel was opened December 14th, 1903, and it was called Hotel Belvedere. And if you don't know, Belvedere is the Italian word for beautiful to see or beautiful view. So historically, back then, during that time period, hotels were not seen as good places to be around. They were like places of ill repute and just had sketchy and bad vibes, and like people were like, stay away from the hotels. But by the time this hotel's opening, that was when the things started to change a little bit, and where you stayed when you traveled was indicative of your level of success. So it was a big deal that this hotel was open in Baltimore, Maryland. They had so many different celebrities come and visit. They served their famous Belvedere martinis, which includes like Belvedere vodka and like French wine, and then you add a little grapefruit twist to garnish it off. And it was a really high-end place. It was the place you wanted to be, the Four Seasons, like the Chase, like that sort of thing. Some of their famous guests include like the Romanian Queen and F. Scott Fitzgerald, that man who wrote that boring American classic, The Great Gatsby. Allegedly, he had a huge scene at like his daughter's birthday party there. The hotel also had a long history of controlling the media. So right before they opened, they invited a bunch of reporters there to do a tour of the hotel. And they also gave them dinner and drinks. And at that time, reporters and journalists would never make enough money to actually go to the hotel and stay. So that was kind of a big deal. And throughout the history of the hotel, they also were known to treat the reporters to like special baseball nights, or if you wrote a good report or a good review or a good article, you could come in and like get dinners and drinks for free. Just like everything else around that time, they did deal with horrible issues of segregations. So apparently black people were not allowed as guests until 1 week before Christmas in 1954. And so they let them in, and this was around the time where the business of the hotel was kind of lagging, and so they were like, well, we're gonna open it up to black people to come in, and they did, and then business went up. They saw a lot of business. They got a whole bunch of guests, but unfortunately people in the Baltimore Hotel Association. People in the Baltimore Hotel Association complained about it, and then a couple weeks later in January, they started refusing black people from being guests in the hotel again. And so after they did that, rightly as it should, the hotel just went downhill from there. In the 1970s, the hotel was leased out by this really shady businessman who was rumored to do any and everything to make a dollar, and he decided to turn the hotel into dorms for college students in the Baltimore area, and that just went horrible. The hotel just turned into like run down. There's trash everywhere. They had rats. People were getting assaulted. They were selling drugs. The power was going on and off. It was floods. It was leaks. It was so much stuff going on that the hotel was actually shut down because they violated so many codes, and the students were actually evicted from where they were staying. A lot of people checked into this hotel but never checked out. It is said to be one of the most haunted places in Maryland. So everyone that works at the 13th floor bar frequently run into this ghost. So a woman caught her husband dancing with his mistress in one of the hotel ballrooms and shot him in the 1920s and 30s. And the man's ghost, so the husband, he haunts the 12th floor of the hotel. But get this, he only haunts women. Okay, so let's talk about this. So you mean to tell me that you are a man and you are at this hotel with your mistress and your wife finds out and she is like, outraged, obviously, as she should be. And so she shoots you and you are now a ghost and you only want to haunt women because of something that you did that you didn't have to do. So now you want to scare women. Confusing. So, as we can see, this hotel has had a lot of stuff going on, with the most recent thing going on, Rey Rivera. So Rey Rivera was 32 years old and he was a freelance videographer and he was actually a writer, but he wanted to get into film and everything. But he was found at the hotel and it looked as if his body had fallen through a hole in the roof. So let's just discuss. I'm not going to go over the details, the small details, but let's discuss things that are not making sense and adding up to me and what is really confusing about this case. So the first thing that is really confusing to me is the phone call he received that had him leave the house. So allegedly, well, not allegedly, according to his wife, the phone call was received at around 6:30, and the house guest that was there said that Rey ran out the house like he was late for something. So this was an immediate red flag to me because I noticed right away that his wife was not at home when he got this mysterious phone call. So whoever made this phone call, I think, knew that his wife was not going to be there, and they waited until she was good and gone to get him to run out the house. Because obviously, if your husband gets this phone call and he's like frantic and he has to leave, you're going to be like, where are you going? Like, is Beyonce like somewhere? Are you going to go get some food? Are you going to bring something back? Like, where are you going? Why are you running out the house at 6:30? Like, what's going on? So that means that to me, that the caller knew that his wife was not going to be there. The only person in the house with Rey was a house guest, and she was a colleague of his wife's. So of course, I'm thinking about my own self. Like, if that was me, I was the house guest and I worked with this woman and the woman was not there, but her husband was there, I'm minding my own business. Like, you're running out the house. It's going to give me anxiety because I'm like, oh my gosh, why would they run out the house and leave me here? But of course, I'm not going to run after him and be like, oh, where are you going? I'm going to mind my business while I'm in my room anxious and like, oh my gosh, he just left me in this house and didn't tell me where he's going. Like, what's going on? But of course, she just minded her business and she did not, freak out until the next day when she was talking to Rey's wife and was like, okay, so let me go check. Yeah, he never came home. So that was really a red flag and really sketchy to me and makes me think that a lot more is going on than we know. So it was really kind of odd to me that they found his car parked so close to the hotel, which was also close to where he worked. That was a little odd. Maybe so it was like a random lot. And when his car was discovered 6 days later, it had a parking ticket because it shouldn't have been there. The spots were numbered on the lot, which meant that it could have been a lot where you were assigned a spot, or it could have been one of those things where you are paying for this spot. Like, I'm in spot number 7, I'm paying, which indicates that you're not going to stay there long. You just parking your car there, you're going where you need to go, and you're leaving. It's not long-term parking. So that was a little sketchy to me. The next really sketchy thing that is not adding up is his glasses and his cell phone, which were both found on the roof, and there were no scratches or damage to his glasses or his cell phone either. Now, if we take a look at the cell phones that were popular in 2006, this is around the time where the design of cell phones was getting into being like fashion and more aesthetically pleasing. So phones that were popular back then was the LG Razor, and you had like your Sidekick was still popular, and Blackberries, and then my personal favorite, the one that I had, was the LG Chocolate. So we're getting into cuter phones. Actually in 2007, a year later, that was when the first iPhone was released. So we have moved out from those big dinosaur phones that like look like a brick that you can throw, and we are going to like more sleek phones that have more functionality, cameras, Wi-Fi, that sort of thing, not carrying around a house phone. Now, I was not able to find the model of phone that Rey had. I couldn't find it anywhere, but I kind of matched it up to this phone that looks similar to one of the first phones that had a camera on them. So obviously, you know, it was silver, it wasn't super bulky. If he fell through a roof, it should have had scratches on it, you know? It really should have had scratches on it. At least some indication that his phone fell. And glasses too. Like, I don't wear glasses like that, but I don't think we have or had just regular glasses that would withstand somebody falling multiple feet in the air, you know. Obviously, if his human body broke so much from falling, his items should have broke as well. So that is a little odd. And one of the detectives in the Unsolved Mysteries, the detective that actually got taken off the case, he said it all looked staged. The glasses and the phone looked very staged. Another thing that really didn't make any sense, and we never got any clarification on, and I don't think Rey's wife got clarification on either, was that note that she found behind their computer. It made no sense whatsoever. It listed out the names of people that they know, but she did say he left out the names of a lot of important people in their life as well, and it had directors' names on there and his movies that he liked. And his wife actually Googled the first phrase of it because she was like, it's so odd that he would write that, and it came up that this was attached to the Freemasons. So interestingly enough, Rey Rivera had expressed before his death interest in joining the local Freemasons Society. He also purchased a few books about the Freemason Society. So Rey wanted to move to LA and be a filmmaker. So his wife kind of chalked up the purchase of the Freemasons book to be something that he was just interested in for his script writing and screenwriting, and his interest in secret societies was just in the interest of storytelling. Which makes sense. You can make up a lot of great stories off of secrets because you don't know the truth, so you can embellish and exaggerate. So it would make sense that as a filmmaker or a screenwriter, he would use information about a secret society to write a screenplay. So interestingly enough, Reddit user TreeN303 posted that one of the movies listed on the note has a main character who works in an investment banking firm who falls off the hotel roof and crashes through a rooftop. And that was the 1997 movie called The Game, starring, who was in that movie? Michael Douglas, yes, starring Michael Douglas. So I vaguely remember watching this movie. I don't think I enjoyed it that much because I don't remember it, but after doing some Googles, I do see some connections. So it's very interesting that he listed that movie as, you know, who knows? Well, we don't really know why he was listing movies, but he listed the game, and he also referenced and made phrases and said things about games in his note. One thing that he said was, "I'd like to welcome those who accepted our invitations for memberships during the game. We couldn't have done it without you." So was he playing the game? I don't know. Another Reddit user said that that list that we're all reading into that list, it really wasn't anything. It was just him writing out his inspiration for his filmmaking and storytelling, and that's it. He was just listing the movies that have inspired him and influenced his work, and that he was on top of the hotel roof because he was just scouting locations, so getting more inspiration, or maybe he was planning on filming something, or he needed to get in the scenery to write the setting for a screenplay, and he was just out scouting and he just had an accident and fell. And I can kind of see that. I think if I was in Baltimore, knowing the rich history and the hauntings of the Belvedere Hotel, I might want to go there for some inspiration to write my own story, or just to go up there and see. It was like for a long time the tallest building in Baltimore. So I'm assuming it's still pretty high up. So maybe, yeah, you might want to go up there and like see a view or something, or you're writing a scene and you just need a little bit more extra oomph, so you go to this hotel to get a little bit more inspiration and pizzazz for your work. I could see that. I think that is a valid, legit point, but it's still just, it doesn't make sense all the way. So the police detectives they ruled it a suicide because that was, all they barely had enough evidence for. They couldn't reach it to murder because there was no evidence that would be like, oh, he was clearly murdered, or an accident. They couldn't really say that either because there was no evidence for that either. Everything was just so inconclusive that they just wrote it off as suicide. Now, in the series, his wife mentions that she talked to the medical examiner, and the medical examiner was not ready for them to close the case and write it off as suicide because of the way his shins were broken. It just is not coinciding with somebody falling off a building and through a hole in the roof. It's just not adding up. So thinking about all this stuff and just going through everything that's brought up and all these random pieces that actually don't fit together into one big picture, the main thing that sticks out to me as being absolutely confusing and mind-boggling and not making any sense to me was his so-called BFF, Frank Porter Stansberry. Ray, and they call him Porter in, articles in the video. Porter, they were childhood best friends. They knew each other since the age of 15. They swam together, all this kind of stuff. They, were close, very, very close. And I do believe that they were close because, so Porter, he had a financial research business called Stansberry's and Associates. And according to Ray's wife, he had been trying to get Ray to move to Baltimore to work for him for years. Now, Ray was a writer, of course, so he was a good writer, obviously. But Ray had no financial background at all, and he never expressed any interest in working in finance at all. But still, Porter was like, come work for me, come work for me, come work for me. So I'm thinking about me personally, if I am wanting my friends to my best friend to come and work for me, even though they have no background in what I want them to work for me for. It's because I really like them, or maybe they're fun, or maybe I'm like, ooh, well, we can hang out after work, or we can do this, and I don't know, I miss you, and yeah, I'm confident in your work, but I get something out of it too, like it's fun for me. That would be a reason that I would want to do that, especially if I was Porter, because the year prior to that, or maybe I don't know if it was the year before that, but right before Ray came to work for him, Porter's company, his business, Stansberry and Associates, was actually fined $1 million from the SEC because they were under an investigation for fraud, because they were publishing information, which is what they had called Ray to do. They were publishing information, a financial newsletter, giving people a heads up like, hey, buy stock from here, invest in this, and do that, and do that. And apparently people were complaining because Stansberry and Associates were giving out information and tips that just weren't panning out. People weren't making any money. So something not exactly the same, but something similar that Martha Stewart got popped for, this man got fined $1 million for. So if I just got fined $1 million and I am inviting my best friend to work for me, yes, he wanted Ray to kind of write the newsletter to kind of change their image and make it more positive and kind of do damage control for that, which I'm sure Ray could as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter. You have your imagination, you can use it, spin it. But also, I feel like there would be a strong connection that I would have with this person. So that is where things did not add up. So if Porter had like a strong friendship and a connection with Ray, then somebody please answer this and tell me why Porter was not cooperating with the police. You have a financial research business and your best friend, who is also an employee, goes missing, and you only offer a reward for $1,000. So less than a Trump check. He put up less than a Trump check for information for his best friend and employee. And then the police traced the phone call that sent Ray running out of the house. They traced it back to his place of business, Stansberry and Associates, but they couldn't figure out whose office it came from. It was just on a switchboard, and they couldn't figure out who made the call. So after the police traced that phone call back to them, Porter shut it down. He said, gag order, gag order, gag order, gag order, gag order. Nobody talk. Don't say anything. You don't know anything. You haven't seen anything. Zip it. And he zipped it too. And he never cooperated. And he never said anything. He never told anything. Doesn't make sense. Personally, my best friend goes missing. I'm going to the police. Look here, look here, look there. Go to Target. Go here. Go do this, do that. Look here. Look. Try here. Did you look over here? Did you look here? What's going on? Go through all this. Let me help. Let me see. But what did they say last week? Well, what were they wearing? Let me go and rack my brain. And was there something I'm missing? Something. I'm not gonna hire a lawyer and be like. The crazy thing about it was that there was never enough evidence or enough reason, probable cause, whatever, for the police to be able to get their own lawyers and the judge to get warrants or whatever and breach those gag orders. So Porter essentially got away with never having to speak and answer any questions about Ray ever. Now, allegedly, he did bump up the reward from $1,000 to $5,000, but this was after people were kind of side-eyeing him and the media got a hold to it, and people were kind of like, $1,000, that's it? from a financial research company that's making big bucks, a multi-million company, you're only putting up 1,000. Ooh, okay. So he got the side eye, and then he decided to put up more money. And allegedly, a PR person that works for the company now is saying that there was never a gag order and that Porter was fully willing to cooperate with the police. But what was that Jadena said in his song? True friends stab you in the front. That man was no friend of Rey Rivera. So my thoughts on the matter are this. Rey's friend Porter wanted him to come and work for him for whatever reason. Yes, I think you'll be a good fit. Work for my company, blah, 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 whatever. Work for him. They get involved in some mess. Maybe Rey is like, hey, Porter, I want to join the Freemasons. And maybe Porter's like, oh, yeah, join the Freemasons. Maybe he was in the Freemasons. Or maybe he wasn't in the Freemasons, and maybe he was like faking to get in the Freemasons. Or maybe they both wanted a joint membership and they're like, oh, we got to do X, Y, and Z and we can join the Freemasons together. And something happened along the way, and maybe Porter killed Rey and it just, things went too far and he murdered Rey and just set up the scene, got a sledgehammer, beat in a hole in the hotel, hid his body to make it look like he fell through the roof, and placed his cell phone and his glasses up there and looked like, oh, Rey dropped them there and jumped. But who knows? Like, who has any idea of what is going on? His wife for sure believes that it wasn't suicide and that Rey was murdered for sure. And everything is looking like it's Porter that knows something and has something to do with it and is just going to take it to his grave and never tell us anything at all, which is crazy and sucks. There were so many details that were in this case that I didn't even touch on, like the string of break-ins that they had a few weeks prior to Rey going missing, just things like that. So if you haven't watched the Unsolved Mystery episode, I would definitely encourage you to go and watch it. And let me know in the comments below, like, what are your theories? What do you think happened to Rey? Like, what added up for me? Because I'm still not getting it. So if you have a theory or you think you know what's going on, please let me know, and just maybe we can like figure this out, internet investigation, come up to a conclusion, because I know Rey's wife is just I don't even know the man. I never knew the man and never heard of him until I watched that episode last night. And it is just mind-boggling to me what happened. So I can't imagine how his wife is feeling going so many years and just being like, what is going on? So if you have theories, let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video if you liked it. Don't thumbs down, thumbs down. Please just don't do that. That's not necessary, okay? If you don't like my theory, then, put it in the comment. Just make a comment, okay? Just do that. And don't forget to subscribe and watch my other videos. Bye.